Welcome to this summary session of the second Adhyaya. Today we are going to summarize the first three sessions that we have already done for the second Adhyaya of Sri Bhagavad Geeta. We will start with the gratitude towards the Lord, towards the Guru Parampara, and towards our Guruji, Guruma. We'll start with the prayer. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma vidvishamahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Now, as you all know, Geeta Ji is a dialogue between Lord Krishna and Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, the Mahabharata battle. It is the summary teaching of Upanishads, the Vedanta, as given by the Lord Krishna. It is the crux of the Upanishad. It gives all the teachings of the Vedanta philosophy to the mankind. It actually is a manual for life. It shows us the way how to live life, how to be free from the miseries and the pain and the sorrows of our day-to-day life, how to see the life in a very beautiful, different perception, different way, and what is the reality of this universe, what is the reality of all the beings, and what is the reality about the Lord Himself, Ishvara. So all these aspects are covered in Bhagavad Gita, and that's why it is also called the Sampurna Granth, because it covers all the subjects that are relevant for us, and it is given in a very concise, summarized way. Though there are 700 shlokas, but still the summary is very concise, because Upanishads are very vast, almost beyond the reach of a normal person. Unless one has an enlightened Guru to teach us the Upanishads, it is very difficult to understand the Upanishads or the Vedas. So with that in perspective, if we have to focus or concentrate on one scripture for our life which can help us to guide us in our lifetime, then it is Srimad Bhagavad Gita, which can actually be the guiding source of our life. It can be made the pillar of our life, and we can actually, at every step, whenever we face difficulties in life, whenever we have challenges in life, whenever we have the most difficult, challenging tasks, Geeta Ji can help us. The knowledge that Lord Krishna has given us, the understanding, the perception, the reality which Lord Krishna shows us in Srimad Bhagavad Gita can help us as a guiding light, as a guiding path for all of us. Sri Geeta Ji, as you know, is consisting of 18 chapters. Its main summary or the main subject matter is a Shok Nivrutti, to lead us to our eternal blissful self, the realization of our own blissful self by understanding of the Atma Jnana or the self-knowledge, which can give us freedom or liberation from all our worldly miseries, attachments, sorrows, grief, and this cycle of birth and death, So this is only by the understanding of the oneness behind the Jiva, Jagata, and the Ishvara. And the tools that Lord Krishna gives us in Geeta Ji, one is the Karma Yoga, which is the most important initial step for all of us, how we can purify our mind by the practice of selfless action or Karma Yoga. This also involves some kind of a surrender, some kind of devotion to the Lord, and this is also called the Bhakti Yoga. Though in Geeta Ji, Bhakti Yoga is not a separate Adhyaya, or it is not a separate, a path as described in the Geeta Ji, but in Srimad Bhagavad, which is another very important scripture which describes all the births of the Lord. Bhakti Yoga is a very definite path which is described over there. So in Geeta Ji, Bhakti Yoga is a part of Karma Yoga, because when karma is attached with surrender or devotion to the Lord, then it becomes Karma Yoga. So that's how Karma Yoga and Bhakti Yoga are integrated together. And Jnana Yoga is another path which can set us for liberation. And this requires a lot of purification of our mind, Antakarana Shuddhi, and then Jnana Sadhana. Lord shows us two paths, the Pravrutti Marg and the Nivrutti Marg. The Pravrutti Marg is the path of action, that is the householder's path. The Nivrutti Marg is the path of renunciation, that is the Sannyasa Marg. But in both these margs, the ultimate goal can be the same. The ultimate goal, according to the Lord, for all of us, mankind, is achieving our own understanding of our real self, Atma Jnana, understanding the Tattva, the Brahma, or the Atma. So this understanding is essentially the seed or the ultimate goal for all of us, the mankind. Bhagavad Gita, as we started, the first Adhyaya sets the background of the Gita Ji, because Arjuna comes to the battlefield with a lot of confidence. The entire Pandava Sena and the Kaurava Sena, they come with a lot of confidence. But when Arjuna sees his opponents as his own relatives, his own guru, his own respected Bhishma, Drona, then he gets a lot of attachment, and that gives rise to Shoka, Moha, and that sets the background. And this is very similar for all of us. We come to our work on a day of work with a lot of enthusiasm and action, but somehow some things happen in such a way, maybe our boss maybe fires us, or maybe there are certain situations which happen beyond our control. There are some legal issues or compliance issues or some other issues which we get stuck into sometimes, out of the blue, and then we all become very, sorrowful, depressed, and we have a very negative kind of an attitude. So how we can be enlightened in day to day by the understanding of Gita Ji is the crux of the second Adhyaya. Second Adhyaya mainly denotes itself to the ultimate knowledge, the Jnana, which is the sacred teachings of the Lord Krishna about our own self, about the Atma Tattva, what it is, how we can understand that, because it is something which is something which cannot be seen. Something that is seen cannot be Atma. The consciousness is unseen, which cannot be perceived by our human brain, our mind, our intellect. Then how is it that we can actually understand, we can actually feel it, we can actually perceive it, we can assimilate it within ourselves? How is it that we can understand this knowledge? So this is the summary of the entire Gita Ji, which is given in the second Adhyaya as the goal. So Lord tells us that this is the ultimate goal for you, and now you have to start the sadhana right from. So the third Adhyaya is Karma Yoga, because that is the beginning of the sadhana. So in the second Adhyaya, it shows us the goal, how we can achieve the goal. It starts with understanding of all the different subjects. He says first you have to understand what is dharma, what is adharma, what is kartavya, what is not, what we should do, what we should not do, and then gradually from the karma, path of karma is the most important path, and then from karma we have to go towards Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and then we can go to Dhyana and then to Jnana Yoga. So with this, the third and the 17th Adhyaya, from the third to the 17th Adhyaya, it's all the description in more details about different aspects of the Lord, like his Vibhuti Yoga, his Dhyana Yoga, Atma Sanyama Yoga, Karma Sannyasa Yoga. A lot of different Adhyayas deal with different aspects. We will come to them later on, but today we are talking about the second Adhyaya. Again, at the end of the Gita Ji, in the 18th Adhyaya, which is another very long Adhyaya, like the second Adhyaya, which is consisting of 72 shlokas. The 18th Adhyaya is also quite a long Adhyaya, and here also Lord summarizes a lot of his teachings over the entire Gita Ji. Is given in a concise summary. So let us start with the first Adhyaya, the summary of the first Adhyaya. First Adhyaya consists of 47 shlokas. In the first 1 to the 11th shlokas are essentially verses which are given as in the chanda in the Bhagavad Gita. Gita means that it can be sung also. You can sing these verses, So that's why it is called the Geeta. And Bhagavad means it is given by the Lord Himself. The Lord Himself has given this message. So the first 11 shlokas talks about both the sides. They come to the battlefield, they see each other, they describe their own armies. Duryodhana describes his own army and says that our army is much more stronger than the other army. And then from the 12th to the 19th shlokas, the conches are blown by both the armies, both the sides. So that signifies the beginning of the battle. And then from the 20th to 27th shlokas, Arjuna watches or wants to see the Kaurava army. He is full of confidence. He tells Bhagavan, Lord Krishna, who has been his Sakha, or his friend for all these years, so many years, and still is a friend, but in the Mahabharata Yuddha, he is the charioteer, the Sarthi, because he has taken a vow not to take up any weapon. That is what Lord Krishna had vowed before the Mahabharata battle. So he is the Sarthi of Arjuna, and he asks his charioteer to take his chariot in the center of the battlefield because he wants to see the opposite side or the opponents properly. And then after he sees all these opponents, all his inflated confidence or overconfidence is punctured just by a pinprick. And that pinprick is the prick of the moha, attachment. And this gives rise to a lot of misery, sorrow, and he becomes so depressed. He develops a stress response in the body. He's trembling. He cannot hold his Gandiv, his Dhanush, which is one of the most powerful Dhanush ever produced. But he is unable to hold it. He shivers, he trembles, he develops dryness of his hands, feet, coldness, numbness, and then he sits down in the back of his chariot, and then he says that I don't want to fight. It's better I run away from this battlefield, but I don't want to kill these opponents who are my own. He develops a lot of attachment, moha, and with this, he speaks a lot of statements which does not befit a warrior like Arjuna. So this is the background or the backdrop of the Gita Ji, the first Adhyaya. We are not going into details of each and every shloka of the first Adhyaya, primarily because it gives a backdrop, and so summary is good enough. It does not have any teachings from the Lord Krishna. There are no verses from the Krishna. It does not speak except for one or two times. He just says that I am taking you now. Arjuna, you are in the center of the battlefield. Why don't you see his armies? So that's the only time that Krishna speaks. He just wants Arjuna to get into that trap so that he gets this attachment and he is able to give his life's message, for which he has taken the incarnation. So Lord Krishna's one of the main purposes of his incarnation on this universe was to give this message of the Gita Ji in the battlefield of Mahabharata. So he knows that the time has come, and he prepares Arjuna. Being a Lord himself, he knows that Arjuna is going to get this moha, attachment, and then he's going to start having this feeling for which he will lead this kind of an uddesha for him to become stronger and understand what is dharma, what is his duties, what is his ultimate goal in life, and how he should live life. So with this backdrop, the first Adhyaya, there are some important shlokas. The first shloka is about how the Gita Ji is set. Dhritarashtra Uvacha, Dhritarashtra speaks. He wants to know what is happening in Dharma Kshetra, Kurukshetra, what all people are doing, and he asks Sanjaya, because Sanjaya is the person who has this divine vision. He is able to see what is happening in the Mahabharata Yuddha, and he is relaying this to Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra is the king, and he is the father of the Kauravas, and he is the maternal uncle of the Pandavas, and he is the person who is blind, so he is not able to see. But through Sanjay, he wants to know what is happening in the Kurukshetra battlefield. So he asks Sanjaya, what are my putra they are doing? So that also denotes his attachment to his sons, which was of course the root cause of this battlefield. If he would have given maybe half of his kingdom or even a small part of the kingdom to Hastinapur kingdom, to the Pandavas, probably this war would never have happened, and probably we would not have been given this Bhagavad Gita message by the Lord. But everything was destined to happen, and that's how this unfolds. The drama of this Kurukshetra battlefield unfolds in Mahabharata. In the 10th shloka, Duryodhana talks about how his army is so powerful and how it is unlimited power, whereas the opponent army, the Bhima Virakshitam, that means the one army that is Rakshita or protected by Bhima, Arjuna and the Pandavas, is a limited army. They don't have the unlimited strength that we have. So that shows the Duryodhana's ego. And ego is one of the root causes of most of our problems, attachments, our miseries, our expectations from others to have some kind of a praise or some appreciation of what we are doing. So all this stems out of our ego. So this is another root cause of our problems. And then in the 21st and the 24th shloka, Lord Krishna asks Arjuna asked Krishna that let me see all these center of the battlefield, and Lord Krishna takes him to the center of the battlefield, and he puts the chariot there and asks Arjuna to see all the warriors. And then finally in the 47th shloka, the Arjuna, he says, I don't want to fight, and he sits down on the backside of the chariot, puts down his gandiv, his dhanushya, his bow and arrow, and then he says that I am full of misery, I cannot fight, I don't want to fight, I don't want to kill these people, even if it's better that I get killed or it's better that I run away from this battlefield. So this is the final shloka of the first Adhyaya, which sets the backdrop or background for the second Adhyaya. So the second Adhyaya, as you know, we have done the 3 sessions so far. The first session was the first 10 shlokas of the second Adhyaya, which consists of 72 shlokas in total number. So the first 10 shlokas are also the backdrop of what is going to unravel in the second and the third session, that is the Atmagnana Updesha, which Lord Krishna gave in the in the second Adhyaya. So that formed the part of the 2.1 talk, which we already have discussed and done so far. This consists of the 11th to the 25th shlokas, and then the third part of the session was the shlokas 26 to 46, which is between the Atmagnana and the Karma Yoga. So these is the transition period where Lord Krishna talks about dharma, about kartavya, and about a lot of other links which are important for antakarana shuddhi, purification of the mind as part of the sadhana, and to develop, go into Karma Yoga. So before that, what all is necessary, that part is shown in this Dharma Updesha, which we will summarize in these 3 parts. So let's start with the first part, the 2.0, which were the first 10 shlokas, where Sanjay starts the Adhyaya and Krishna tells Arjuna to stop being coward, and uses sometimes some harsh words also to Arjuna, which he normally doesn't use. And then from the 4th to the 6th shlokas, Arjuna gives many excuses to the Lord Krishna why he does not want to fight the war. Guru Nahatvani Mahanubhavan Shreya Bhoktum Bhekshamapiha Loke. They are all very learned, they are my respected people. How can I fight them, he says. And then on the 7th is the main shloka, which is a very important pivot, because here Arjuna accepts that he wants to become the disciple of the Lord Krishna, with whom he shared a friendship for so many years, more than 80 to 90 years. And then he reiterates his faith into the Lord and shows some kind of a vairagya. He wants to, he doesn't want any of these material possessions, doesn't want his kingdom, doesn't want even the heaven as a kingdom. So he shows this vairagya. Of course, this is not a true vairagya, but this was more like a temporary vairagya born out of his miserable state. And then he talks 9, 10 shlokas. Sanjaya talks about how Arjuna becomes silent, Tushnim Babubaha, and then he sits down on the battle on his chariot and does not want to. It says, Na Yotsya, I don't want to fight. And then finally, Prahasanni Eva, as the Lord Krishna, just as if he's smiling, he was just like waiting for this opportunity, and then he starts his Uddesha. So from the 11th shloka, Ashocyanam Vashochastvam, he starts his message, sacred teachings of the Lord about the Atma, Anatma, Viveka. What is Atma? What is the Atma Tattva? What is this consciousness which is indestructible, Anashina? What is the Anatma part, the Deha, Dehino, Vidya, Avadyoyam. So all the different aspects of Atma, Anatma, and this kind of a discrimination, the Viveka, discriminative intellect as it is called, about Atma and Anatma. He starts and he tells in details about what is Atma, what is Anatma, and how the wise person does not get affected by knowing the reality, what is Atma, and how the ignorant person, the Jnani, he is confused between the Atma and the Anatma. He thinks that he is the Anatma, and that's how he gets deluded, and his vision is not the correct vision, and how he becomes miserable in his life. So the second talk of the Dharma Uddesha was the slokas 26 to 46. From his own miseries, Arjuna, from his own beliefs, from his own manyata, how he talks, Lord Krishna talks about. He also gives the Dharma Uddesha and the Kartavya Uddesha. And then from the 39th slok, there is a transition from Jnana Marg to Karma Marg. And then Lord Krishna talks about the Nishkam Karma, the Sakam Karma, how Nishkam Karma is better because it's selfless and it is much more superior to the Sakam Karma, which is a selfish action. Whenever we do any action or any work for our selfish motive, it is called the Sakam Karma. And how the Nishkam Karma is much better because it elevates ourselves, it gives us a lot of punya, a lot of benefit because of this Nishkam Karma. It purifies our own self, which can help us to lead to the Atma Jnana, and then he finally shows the ultimate goal of the life and the fruits of these actions. So let us start with the first shloka, and we are just summarizing. We are not going to details of each shloka, just to what is the message of that shloka, what is the understanding, how we can put it out in our life, and how we can make it useful in our life. This is what we will see in this session. So the first talks about the Arjuna Sthiti, Arjuna's situation, how he feels. He's engulfed by a lot of moha, attachments, delusion, with a lot of tears in his eyes. He has a stress, he's engrossed in sorrow. And then to this kind of Arjuna, this situation, what Lord Krishna starts talking about. And this is a situation that a lot of us, the Jiva, get into at many times in our life, that we become deluded, we become sorrowful, we become miserable. It is different for different people. Some people, even for minor things, they get miserable. For some people, even major things don't affect them. They don't get into this kind of a situation. So this is quite variable depending on our own understanding of what we are, what is our essence. Based on this, all this affect us in variable way. So this understanding, what is this software that governs our understanding, our belief systems, our attitudes, our thoughts, and finally our actions. So that is what we need to be aware about and we need to understand. And then Lord Krishna talks about how moha affects us. This is what our Guruji has told us, that moha has several stages, and you can see this in Arjuna itself. And we are mostly unaware about how it works. So the first, how it affects us is that it affects our mind, and it comes into the mind, it comes in our thoughts, it comes into, then as Arjuna in the first Adhyaya sees his own relatives, a thought comes in his mind, oh, these are my own. So that is how moha affects us, attachment, oh, these are my own. And then it starts affecting our body. It reaches to the stage of the body where it makes us feel, miserable, in the sense there is a stress, there is an anxiety, and we feel that, oh, if I do this, what will happen? What will happen? So with this, it affects our body. It gives rise to stress response, the activation of the sympathetic nervous system in our body, which gives rise to this stress response, release of a lot of hormones like adrenaline, noradrenaline, and this affects us, our perception, and it makes us more and more tense, and gives rise to a lot of chronic stress, which can by itself lead to several issues, several problems. It can affect the digestive system, it can affect the nervous system, it can affect a lot of other issues and can give rise to lots of problems. And then finally, when the moh becomes like a, branching out, as Arjuna started giving a lot of excuses for not fighting, because ultimately it was the moh which he wanted to hide. But then he gave a lot of excuses. These are my elders, these are my respected, how can I kill them, how can I do this? So we also do this in our life several times. We give a lot of excuses for our, for hiding our sorrows, our miseries. And because we can't see it properly, we give several excuses. And then it affects our intellect. Finally, it affects our decision-making power. We cannot take a proper decision, what is right, we cannot see what is right. And then we always look for somebody who is able to support us in this, what I want to do, which is not the correct thing. Sometimes we know it from within that this is not correct, but just because we want to do it, we are, out of our ego, out of our pride, out of our attachment. If we still want to do certain things, then we will look for some kind of a support, and then our entire vision, our mind, everything gets deluded. We see what is adharma in the dharma and dharma in the adharma. The second shloka talks about how Lord Krishna starts speaking to Arjuna, and he says, in this situation, in this battlefield, how is it that a great or a person like you is developing this kind of a impurity of the mind, or kashmala. Kashmala is some kind of an impurity of the mind, and this does not befit you, Arjuna. This will neither give you heaven, it will give you no reputation also, it will give you a lot of disrepute. And sometimes it happens that our actions and the results that we get are not something that we desire or something that we wanted. And at this time, how we should feel, how we should think, this is what the Lord teaches us, that this is something that has come to us as our karma, our duty, our God's will. We should accept it, how we can accept it, and how we should go ahead. So he says, Arjun, don't, in this verse, Lord Krishna tells him in some harsh words, not to be coward, not to be unmanly, and you should not become weak at your mind, at your heart. You should remain strong. Ho Parantapa. Parantapa means, oh strong man, you are very strong. You are a brave warrior. So why are you getting these kind of negative feelings in your mind? You must, you should get up. He literally orders Arjuna to get up and start doing his duty. What is his duty in the battlefield is to fight the war. Of course, the call for us from the Lord is Uttishta, means you get awake, arisen, and fight and do your best. Whatever duty Lord has given us, we should do it in the best possible way. So the understanding here is that we have to first use our inner strength to do what best we can do. So Purushartha or the karma is the most important part. God is always there to help us, but we have to fight our battles. And if we are there to fight and do the best what we can, then God is always there. We must have that kind of a faith that God will always help us. Dukkha and the shoka is born out of our own karma. It is not given by the Lord. It is always, we should get aware as soon as possible when a situation arises, so that these situations don't go out of control and they don't become a crisis in our life. So this kind of an awareness is very important. Whenever we have some pain or misery, our natural tendency is to blame others for this. But we should be aware that we should not blame others. We should think that how to get out of this, how to rationally understand and get out of these dukkha, shoka and moha. The seventh shloka is again the crux of the studenthood, when Arjuna accepts to become a disciple of the Lord. And here he says that now I am engulfed by a lot of misery. He accepts that he is in two minds. He doesn't know what is good for him. And this acceptance in our life is very, very important. Whenever there is a problem that we face, most of the times we try to deny or do not try to accept the problem. It could be anything in our family, it could be related to our parents, our children, but most of the times we try not to accept the problem as it is, rather than try to force against the problem. And this acceptance is very, very important, which is the first step to surrender to the Lord. And then once we surrender to the Lord, then we are able to be receptive to what the God wants to tell us. Till that time, we cannot even understand what the Lord or the nature or the cosmos is trying to tell us. So here, the Krupana is the miser. Miser is somebody who doesn't want to let go of things, Karpanya dosha, and so acceptance is the first step towards our change. We have to accept being a disciple. We have to accept that there is a limit to us, our understanding. We have to accept some guru in our life. We have to accept that role, that guru is much more learned, who is able to teach me or try to understand me. And that kind of an enlightened guru is someone that will really show me the way as I want. But the first step is my own desire. If I have the desire to learn, then I'll probably be able to progress on this path. And I'm glad that so many of you are having this kind of a desire to understand, to learn, and that's why you are on this path. And I'm sure you will find a learned guru, an enlightened guru who can show you the real path. And to this surrender is very important. We have to surrender to the God's will. We have to surrender to the guru, his knowledge, his or her knowledge, and with this kind of a surrender attitude, I think we can progress much better on this path of spiritual enlightenment. The 8th shloka, again Arjuna describes his dilemma. He says, I don't know what is good for me, I don't know what is not good for me, I am in two minds, I am in a lot of sorrow, and please, I don't know whether with all these material possessions, what will I do? So with this dilemma, Arjuna expresses his situation. He comes to terms with his situation. Now he is not giving excuses. Now he has accepted that there is a problem with me, that I am not able to see clearly and I need some help from you, oh Lord. Please do something. And then Lord takes up, accepts this responsibility onto himself to give him the message that is the most important message of the Lord. So in the 10th Adhyaya, as if smiling, Lord Krishna starts talking as if he was waiting for this opportunity to Arjuna, who is full of sorrow, who is sitting there very depressed, doesn't know what is good, what is not good for me. And then Lord starts him. So this was our second talk, which was the 2.1, the Jnana Updesha. And the first shloka, which Lord Bhagavana Uvacha, Sri Bhagavana Uvacha, Ashocyanan Vashochastvam Prajnavadanscha Bhashase Gatasuna Gatasunschya Nanushocanti Panditaha. So in this first shloka, Lord Krishna tells Arjuna that you are feeling sad for something for which it is not worth feeling sad about. And this is something that the wise men have already known. For those who have left us and for those who have not left us, wise men do not feel the sorrow. So what is that understanding of that wise man? So here he just says that whatever you are feeling sorrow is not worth feeling sorrow about. So this is the main difference between the Jiva's vision and the Lord's vision. In Jiva's vision, this attachment is the most important thing. My own people, somebody of my own develops some kind of a pain or misery or disease, or if that person passes away, we are the most miserable person. But the Lord's vision is very different. So let us try and understand what is the Lord's vision. Jiva's vision is very limited. By our own understanding, we are governed. But what is this Lord's vision? So let's see that. So in the Lord's vision, all this pain, misery that we have as Jiva, there are two main causes. One is the fundamental cause or the root cause, and second is a special cause. So the root cause is dependent on, root cause is the ignorance or the avidya, that is, that surrounds all these Atma Gnana. all the conditioning, all the layers of the conditioning, our own belief systems, what we have had for Janmo Janam, that affects, and that is the root cause of all our difficulties in our life. But there is another cause, which is the situational cause, or the vyavharik cause, or the temporary cause, which is dependent on the situation. So a situation has come in the battlefield of Arjuna, where he is, because of the this war between his cousins, he is getting this attachment and the sorrow. And so for that there can be some temporary solution. But the permanent solution to the sorrow is to take away this avidya or ignorance and expose our true inner self, or understand this blissful our inner self. And death is a reality which cannot be changed, which has to be accepted. And that is what Lord will say in his teaching also. So in the 12th shloka, he talks about the Atma. He starts talking about the Atma Tattva, or the Atma. What is Atma? So a lot of times we have a lot of confusion about Atma. Atma, we think it's something Atma is, something which is we cannot see, but it is a spirit. It comes and it goes, and then it's rest in peace. We very often say, rest in peace, Atma, rest in peace, let his spirit rest in peace, let him rest in peace. But Atma, the real understanding, Lord has given in this Bhagavad Gita. So let us understand. So Atma, Lord says it is the Sat Tattva. It is the only Sat Tattva. It is the Nitya Tattva. The definition of Sat is, which is Trikala Abhadita. Means it remains the same in all the three tenses. The past tense, the present tense, and the future tense. So it is the same. It undergoes no change. It undergoes no other modification. So it is that kind of a tattva, Atma Tattva, which has always been there. So here he says, there was no time that neither you were not there, I was not there, neither these kings were not there. So Jiva, Jagata, Ishvara, all the three, Paramarthika Swarupa, the fundamental being, has always been there. He says, what pervades in all these three is the consciousness, the Atma Tattva, which has always been there. It is not there was no time that you were not there, I was not there, or these three kings or these kings were not there. And there won't be any time in the future that you will not be non-existent. So you will always be existent. You have always been existing, you always are, and you will be always existing. But this, he says, from the fundamental or the Paramarthik Swarupa of the Jiva, Jagata and the Ishvara. So that is the Atma Tattva. So here the Lord is talking from a Nirgun, Nirakar Atma Tattva, his own consciousness. That is how he is talking. So this understanding is very important. Bhagavan Krishna is not talking as his form and his name and the form, but he is talking as his real, the Paramatma Swarupa. His Nirgun, Nirakar Swarupa is talking. From that Swarupa, that I have always been there, you have always been there. So this is the understanding that only a Guru can show us, this kind of an understanding, that from what perspective the Lord is talking, in which shloka, what he is speaking, what is the perspective. In the next shloka again, he comes back to the reality, and he says that the Deha, he gives a discrimination between the Atma and the Anatma, the Deha and the Dehi. He says the Deha, or the body, undergoes several changes, vikara, and that is called the Shad Vikara. The body undergoes 6 changes as it conceives, then it is born, then it undergoes changes, pubertal changes, then it becomes vipakshiyate and apakshiyate. So these are the 6 changes that the body goes through. That is called the Shad Vikara. But the person who owns, he says, the one who owns this Deha, the Dehi, undergoes no change. So he's talking about the Atma here, he's talking about the consciousness, that does not undergo any change. And this is something that we must understand. This is the reality. And the Atma and the Anatma, these we generally get confused. We look the Atma as the Anatma and Anatma as the Atma. So this is what causes all the problem, because we cannot see clearly. So most of the times the problems happen when there is a death. And Lord also talks about Mrityu, what is Mrityu and how we can understand this. But from an individual perspective, it's a very big event. From a collective perspective, from the Lord's perspective, it's a very natural event. From a collective perspective also, as an individual, when we see that so many people have already, maybe have died in some natural disaster or some disease or a pandemic, then it does not affect us so much. But when our own person, somebody we know, he dies, then it affects us so much. So it again shows that it is the root cause of the affection or the affliction is my own attachment to that person. So Lord describes what is death. Death is, that the sthula sharira, the gross body, it stops working. So that is the death is only of the sthula sharira. For the sukshma sharira, the subtle body which is within us, which is much more profound, which is our antakarana, that is our mind, our prana, indriya, buddhi, mana, all this forms a subtle body or the sukshma sharira. So that undergoes a transition. It just changes the form. The gross body, it changes from one body, it goes to the other body. So that is the transition of the sukshma sharira. And the atma undergoes no change when there is death, because atma is, in any case, it is eternal. It is the consciousness. It does not go any change. It does not go from one body to the other. Atma is always there. So this is the understanding that Lord Krishna tells us. This is the root, understanding of the Vedanta philosophy, that what is the death and how it should be perceived in reality. And then Lord comes back to the reality, the world, because Arjuna must have understood, Lord, you are talking about this Atma and Atma, but I have to stay in this world. I have to see all this, undergo all these problems, all my relations, all my bosses, my colleagues give me so many stress every day in and out. How do I handle this situation? This question must have come to Arjuna's mind when Lord must have told him that Matra Sparshastu Kaunteya Shitoshna Sukha Dukkadaha, means that whenever all these sense organs, the indriya, come in contact with the Vishaya, the objects around, then always there will be some sukha, dukkha, something will give me pleasure, some people will give me pain, there will be some hot times which will give me dukkha. Maybe I don't like this heat that is giving me dukkha. So all these dualities, these are called the dvandvas. The dualities, they are both the same sides of the coin. Of course, sometimes somebody will praise me, somebody will criticize me. So both these, they go together. And all this raga, dvesha, all this mana, apmana, sukha, dukkha, these are the dualities or the dvandvas, pleasure, pain, hot, cold. You have to endure. And that is what the Lord tells us all, that Tan titikshasva bharata. Titiksha means sahanshilta. We must endure. Most of the times our endurance, our tolerance power is so low that it creates a problem for us. Even in today's world, the major problem with even the next generation is that the tolerance is getting lesser and lesser. And that is causing a lot of problems in the next generation. The children, along with the parents, they have a lot of conflicts because the tolerance of the society at large is getting lower and lower day by day. We want to become more independent. In quotes, I'm saying this independence is called swachandata. It is not the real independence. The real independence is swatantrata, that comes only out of the sanyama that the Lord talks about here. Only with that kind of understanding one can become independent. Independent doesn't mean that I can do whatever I want. That is not the real independence, what our Guruji tells us. So basically, in our practical life, we have to live. We have to do what best we can. Titiksha does not mean that we don't try our best to, make our life comfortable, to make our life smooth and, nice. Use the comforts that we have of the day-to-day uses, like the technologies that we have. We should all use them, but use them in a more constructive way, in a more beneficial way. So, and whenever there are problems, there are pain, there are miseries, we have to accept these dualities. We have to accept it. We should not complain, keep on complaining. A lot of people have this attitude, always complaining about what they don't have, what they, keep complaining, telling about this person did not, appreciate what I did. So this kind of complaining attitude or blaming attitude is not a good attitude. It's not a positive attitude. We must accept, do our best, learn out of this situation that happened to us, pray to the Lord that He comes to our help, and God always, out of mercy, out of His Krupalu nature, always helps us. But the caveat is that we have to first do our best. We can't just sit, we don't do our best and then pray to the Lord that God, please help me. I don't think God is going to help us in that situation. We have to do our best. We have to have faith in the Almighty. We have to learn from our mistakes. We have to get onto this path and then, pray to the Lord to help us, to get us out of this difficult situation. And that is called His Vishesh Krupa. The Samanya Krupa, our Guruji tells us that Samanya Krupa is there on everyone, because out of the karma theory, karma phala theory, that is a Samanya Krupa. But Lord also has a Vishesh Krupa. So from people who, apart from our karma phala, what we get as our fruits of our action, Lord can, because of His own Sarva Shaktiman, His will, He can do some Vishesh Krupa on us and give us something beyond what we deserve or what we desire. So that is the Lord's Vishesh Krupa. And then Lord Krishna talks about the Samatva, how in all these dualities we can remain balanced, equipoised, we accept them in the same stride. It is not easy. In life we have so many different circumstances, situations, and accepting all of these in a stride, in the same stride, it is the most difficult part of the sadhana. It can only come with a lot of our understanding, our sajagata, our awareness. And here Lord says that only the person who is samatva, who is balanced, he is the person who is candidate for the jnana. Because ultimately Atma Jnana is the only way we can be liberated from this sansara. From this world, we cannot be free without our Atma Jnana. So this is what the Lord talks about. And if you want to really be free, the first step is to develop samatva. Samatva bhavana is very, very important. This is a sadhana to purify our mind, to become samatva. Karma Yoga will help us to develop this samatva. And with this only we become the candidate, adhikari, for the next step of the jnana sadhana, through which we can reach to the ultimate freedom from all the limitations, that is called the moksha. So these are the two steps. The first step is the antakarana shuddhi, the purification of our mind or our inner self, which can happen only with the viveka, vairagya, mana, indriya, sanyama, and all the sadhana chatushtaya sampatti. So with this we can develop purification of our mind, and then finally we can go to the jnana sadhana, which is a shravana, manana, another nididhyasana. That basically is the shravana means the guru updesha, we hear Vedanta Vakya. Manana means we clear all our doubts by doing contemplation, by doing some kind of a manana. That happens along with the shravana also. And then the nididhyasana is the sanskaras. The old sanskaras have to be replaced by the new Atma Sanskara, Anatma Sanskara to Atma Sanskara. And this is by meditation, contemplation, constantly being aware. And this is the Vedantic meditation is called the Nididhyasana. So this is the entire spiritual journey for all of us, the seekers. So Lord talks about the reality of the material world, how antavanta ime deha, all these bodies are said to have an end. There is a definite end to all the bodies, right? But the bodies belong to the Nitya, so Sharirina. Shariri is the one who holds or who is the owner of these bodies. And this Shariri or the Atma Tattva is talking about, again the Atma here, is indestructible. It is Anashina, Aprameyasya. Aprameyasya means it cannot be understood by any pramana. Prameya is, we generally normally understand all the jnana, all the vishaya in the samsara or in this world, we understand through some pramana. And this pramana could be Indriya pramana, and there are some 5 pramanas which help us to understand any knowledge. For example, what we see, we believe. So that is the Chakshu pramana. For the Rupa, it is the pramana. So similarly, here this Atma Tattva cannot be perceived by any of these pramana, and that's why it's called Aprameya. So this understanding, how we can understand what is, we commonly say that this is my body, this is my mind, this is my intellect. So what is mine cannot be I. So I has to be separate from the mind. So this understanding, the Atma and the Anatma, Viveka. So who am I? And what is this? When we commonly tell that this is my body, just like this is my house, this is my car, these are my, this is my cell phone. We commonly say this is my body. So then, if it is my body, then I and the body are separate. Similarly, we can, introspect more, go deep within and say, I and my mind is separate, I and my indriya senses are separate, I and my prana are separate, my buddhi is separate, then who am I? So this is how one can go in and do an inquiry for our own self. And we must remember that I and whatever belongs to me are both different. They cannot be the same. Right? So this is how we can develop a self-inquiry. And finally, Lord says, Atma does not have any kartrutva. It is akarta, abhokta, swarupa of the Atma is described in this shloka. That he says that one who believes that Atma kills someone or Atma gets killed, he does not know that Atma never kills, neither gets killed. So it actually suggests that we commonly believe that we are the karta and we are the bhokta. So this is how we live in this world, because we are identified with our own body, our own mind, our own intellect, our name, our form, our profession, our skills. This is what we are attached to or we are limited to. And we don't understand that we are what we are beyond this. And that's why we always believe that we are the doer, and whatever fruits of action comes to us, we are the enjoyer of these fruits of action. So we are the karta, we are the bhokta. This is what we understand. But how we can understand this completely contrary understanding that what I am the akarta. I don't have any kartrutva bhavana or bhoktutva bhavana. I am not the enjoyer. I am not the doer. So how can we understand this? That is what in this shloka Lord says. And then he says, Najayate mriyate va kadachit. Atma is never born. It never dies. It is eternal. It can never be produced. It doesn't come into existence. It is always there. It is nitya. And it is, it never, even when the body is killed, the Atma is never killed. So all this is clearly shown. It is that the Atma, the consciousness is eternal. And we must develop some kind of Atma Anatma Viveka, which is the crux of this Vedanta philosophy, which we need to understand. And this is something that we always, we have, our consciousness is very clouded, or our understanding is very limited in this field. And then he talks about, Lord Krishna talks about the Atma, it's Akarta Swarupa, Abhokta Swarupa in this slok, that one who knows this indestructible Nitya Atma Swarup, how does he get killed or he gets killed? So this is what is the kartrutva, which is the main cause of all our problems, our doership feeling, because of which we always believe that this is the enjoyership feeling, that I am enjoying this, these are the comforts that I am enjoying. So this bhoktrutva and kartrutva are the main source of problems. And how we can reduce this is also one very important part of the entire spiritual journey, the sadhana. And this is the beautiful process that our Guruji has shown us, how we can shift our kartrutva. It's not that kartrutva can go away in a moment and we can understand our akarta, atmaswarupa immediately. This cannot happen in the flesh. There is an entire sadhana, there is an entire journey which is involved in this. And this comes very gradually. The first step is that all of us, we believe that I am the doer, I have done this, I can do this, I can do so many things, I have earned this much money, I am enjoying this much of wealth, this much of comforts, I have such a nice family, I am so happy, I am doing this, all these things. So all this kartrutva bhavana or the doership feeling is always binding us to our karma. So it cannot liberate us from this karma unless the kartrutva part of that feeling can be detached from our karma. It can become a karma yoga, or we can achieve some kind of a selfless action. So this kartrutva is the one reason, the force that binds us to our karma. So how can we get out of this? So the first step, as our Guruji tells us, is the purification, Shuddhi Karana, by doing dharma karma or kartavya karma, and then upliftment of this Kartrutva by doing Sattvic karma. So we do more Sattvic karma, doing less and less of Rajasika or a Tamsika karma. That will come in the subsequent chapters of Bhagavad Gita. What is Sattvic karma? Bhagavan Krishna always, he does talk about this. And then finally, we must understand that there is a role of Ishvara in whatever, in this world that we are born. He has created this world. He has given us so many things. He's given me the janma, lot of comforts, a lot of things. That kind of an attitude of gratitude has to be there. And then we have to see that His role is there in whatever I'm doing. Whenever I'm doing something, that it's not just because I'm doing it that these fruits are coming to me. But there is a role of a lot of other people, and of course the Lord plays a very important role in whatever fruits of action I get. And this is kind of a partnership with the Lord. Initially we think that, okay, Lord has a small percentage of involvement, that's how, but most of the things I'm doing. And then when we have a more surrender feeling, then we see that Lord's role is even bigger. That's because of the Lord that I am able to do this, because of Ishwar Krupa, God's mercy or His Krupa, that I am doing more and more. And then finally we come to the stage of Ishwararpan, which is surrender, almost complete surrender, that I am the Nimitta Matra and He is doing it through me. So once we reach to this stage, then we can question that where is this Kartrutva? Is it in my mind? Is it in my body? Is it in the Maya field of the Anatma? Or does it belong to the Atma field? And most of the times we believe that Atma and Anatma have got mixed up. So this is called the Jada Chitta Granthi. We get mixed up in the Atma and Atma, and then we feel that this Kartrutva may be in this Granthi. And then when we think more and more, we feel that the Kartrutva cannot be in this Atma, cannot be in Anatma, cannot be even in this Granthi, and that's why Kartrutva itself is Mithya. And what is Mithya will be seen in the later part of Bhagavad Gita, because this is one of the principles of Vedanta, that Brahma is Satya and Jagat is Mithya. But that Mithya is something, it is very different understanding, that itself is a talk by itself. So we are not discussing the Mithya part, but actually that's how we have to take care of or destroy this Kartrutva from our own karma. And that is the only way we can relieve from this bondage of karma bhoga. Because this is a cycle. When we do karma, there is a karma phala, we get bound to it, then we develop some kind of a sanskara, then again it gives rise to desires, kamana, then again it pushes us to do more and more karma. So more karma we do, more phala, bhruktutruva, we enjoy them, again sanskara, again kamana, karma. So this is a cycle which keeps going on and on and on. If you want to get liberated or get free from this cycle, then we have to take care of the Kartrutva, the Abhimana, that is the ego or our pride, which has to be tackled at its root. Unless this is done, we will not come out of this cycle. And finally, Lord Krishna talks about death and describes it in such a very, very simple way. From his point of view, death is just like changing old clothes into new clothes. And in this shloka, which is very famous shloka of Bhagavad Gita, Vasansi Jiranani Atha Vihaya Navani Granati Naroparani Tatha Sharirani Vihaya Jiranani Anyani Sanyati Navani Dehi. He says, what is death? He says, just like a person sheds off his old clothes and wears new clothes, similarly Jivatma is the Sukshma Sharira, leaves the old body when it becomes old and takes the new body. And this is what is death. So from his perspective, death is not a very big situation. Of course, from the Jiva perspective, death is the end of life, and it's a very big thing. We all have a lot of fear of our own death, and we have a lot of fear of our close relatives or family members' death also. So these are all the fears that we have inside, which kind of springs us into a lot of action. So these kind of fears we have to get over by the true understanding. And then Lord Krishna talks about how Nainam Chindanti Shastrani Nainam Dahati Pavaka. So this Atma Tattva cannot be destroyed by any of these 5 elements, cannot be destroyed by weapons, fire cannot burn it, water cannot soak it, wind cannot dry it, and all this, the next 3 shlokas also he talks about this Atma Tattva, that it is indestructible, it cannot be destroyed in any way. So with this, we come to the end of this Atma Tattva and the second session, and then we come to the third session summary, which is the Dharma or the Jnana Updesha. Here Lord talks about what is our regular belief of the Jivatma or the Jiva. Like Arjuna, because he's talking to Arjuna, what we normally believe, we believe that Atma is always born and it always dies. And then he says, even if you believe that Atma is always born, Atma always dies, but even then, there is no reason to worry about. Then there is no reason to, because whatever is, it rises, always sets. It's the nature of the law of the nature. That the sun rises in the morning, sets in the evening. We don't become, attached that the sun should not set in the evening. We don't become attached because it's a natural law. Similarly, if you think that Atma is born and Atma dies, even if that is your thinking, that is not the Lord's thinking. But he says, even if that is your thinking, Jiva, then you don't need to, there is no reason to become sorrowful or miserable. And then he says about our own belief system, that if you believe that Jatasya in Dhruva Mrityu means if somebody is born, he is going to die, somebody dies, he is going to be reborn, because he talks about the rebirth here. And that is one of the philosophies on which the Sanatana Dharma is. That is how the karma phala philosophy also goes. But then if you think that this is unavoidable, then also there is no reason to fear about. So don't feel fear about for something that is unavoidable. If there is something which is not, because birth and death, if the birth has happened, death is unavoidable. And it says if death is unavoidable, then there is nothing to fear about. Why do you have to fear about something that is unavoidable? And it says Avyaktani Dini Bhutani Vyakta Madhyani Bharata. He says that what is temporarily seen, which is Madhyani Vyakta Madhyani Bharata. What is temporarily seen, don't feel sorrow about these things, because it is seen only here. It was not there before, it is not going to be there later on also. So why to feel that sorrow? And he says, and everything is a wonder. This is a beautiful shlok. This is one of my favorite shlokas. Everything is Ascharyavat Pashyati Kashchidena. Everything is Ascharyavat. Atma Tattva is also Ascharyavat. People who see it also is Ascharyavat. People who are wise men who have seen it, that is also wonder. Most of us, we are not able to see, that is also wonder. And a few listen about it but cannot understand it, that is also wonder. And some people can understand about it, that is also. So everything is a wonder, and it's a way how you look at it that is important. So one has to, and from this is the last shloka when the Atma Prakarana, Atma Jnana Prakarana is here. It gets over Dehi Nityama Badhyam. Even if the Deha, again he says that in all the bodies Atma is indestructible, and then he starts talking about the Swadharma Mapicha, which keeping the Dharma in front of you. So Dharma means there was a Sanatana Vedic philosophy where there was a Varnashrama Dharma. So there was a Samanya Dharma for everyone, and there was a special Dharma according to the Varna and the Ashrama that we belong. This will come in the 4th Adhyaya when Lord says Chaturvarnya Maya Shushtam. He says that this Chaturvarnya Maya Shushta, I am the creator. Tasya Kartara Api Mam. Even though I have created, you believe that I am not the creator. That is what he says in the 4th Adhyaya. So that is where he will talk about this. But here let us understand that whatever is our dharma, we should do whatever is best. For here Arjuna's dharma is, he is a Kshatriya. His dharma is to fight a war. His dharma is not to run away from the battlefield and to get a disrepute. So Lord talks about this Viveka. We must have what is our duty, what is our dharma, what is our duty. We must always think like that. And finally he says, if this is the God's will, Yadutshaya. Yadutshaya means if it has come as a God's will, that this war has come to you, then you accept it, feel that you are the blessed one, that this has been given to you as a God's will, and accept whatever comes to you. So this kind of an acceptance feeling also we should have as a God's will, whatever comes to us. And then the 30th shloka is the Sukha Dukkhe Samet Kutva Labha Labha. Here also he talks about Samatva Bhavana, how we can remain equanimous in Sukha, Dukkha, Labha, Alabha, Jaya, Ajaya, and Samakrutva. If you fight this battle, you won't get any Papa. So this will not give you any Papa. So this is a sadhana. As we start from Karma, we have to go to Karma Yoga and to Gnana. And there is a chain of events how we have to start and how we can actually progress on this spiritual journey. And then he changes the topic here. He goes to Karma Yoga. He shows that there are two paths: the path of Gnana and the path of Karma. And this is a very beautiful shloka which says that nothing done on this path of on the spiritual path, it goes in vain. Whatever small steps you take, it is going to help you, and it will always be there. Not of this life or even in the next life, it will help you, because that is from where we start our sadhana in the next life also. Talks about the Vyavasaya Atmika Buddhi, that determined intellect, which is very important and as human beings we are bestowed this Buddhi. We should make the best use of this. And finally, the final goal, Traigunya Vishaya Veda, this Traigunya Bhava Arjuna, Nirdvandvo Nitya Sattvasto Niryogakshem Atmavan. Means we must transcend this material world, which is made up of the three gunas, and go towards this Traigunya, Nirdvandvo Nitya Sattvasto Niryogakshema Atmavan. It's a very beautiful shloka and calls for transcendence for all of us from this material world to the spiritual realms, where we can actually understand our own real self. So this is with this we come to the end of the summary of the first 3 sessions. I'm sure you have enjoyed this understanding. I request you that you should go again and again to revisit this, read and understand this better before we go on to the next part, which is the Karma Yoga and the Sthita Prajna, because these are all also very important parts of the second Adhyayas, which we shall see in the next sessions. With this, I thank you all very much. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashyate. Om Sanam